Assalamu alaikum. The topic I'm going to talk about today is about health, which is a key ingredient in sustainability. Just a bit about myself. I've studied in England, and that's where I did my surgical postgraduate membership degrees and also in family medicine. But at the moment, I'm working as a GP in Australia, and we try to solve health problems at the root cause, not just masking the symptoms, but directly at the root cause, so that the problems doesn't keep on recurring. And another field I'm especially passionate about is nutritional medicine. Before I talk about health, I just want to ask a quick question to everyone. I'm sure you guys, most of you drive, and the question is, what sort of fuel do you put in your car? So, as you know, there's plenty of types of fuel. There's diesel, there's ethanol, there's 94%, 94 octane, 98. So these are all legitimate car fuels, okay? So I'm sure you guys know that. But do you know that you can also use cooking oil as a fuel to your car? You can use used cooking oil, which is actually a cheap oil, recycle, and you can use. It might not be good for the engine of your car, but your car can still run, okay? So I just want you to keep that in mind at the end of the talk, okay? So I'm just going to talk about health. I'm just going to talk about the problems that we face at the moment, the scale of the problem, and then hopefully provide some solutions, all right? So the key thing I want to focus on now is about nutrition. So the question is, have we been fed lies in the last 50 years, especially in the mainstream medicine and what we're talking about food and health and what to eat or not? The question is, have we been fed lies or propaganda for someone else's benefit? So if you notice at the moment, we are actually facing a health crisis. There is a tsunami of health crisis, health issues, which is we never faced before. We never faced it's unprecedented. Okay, so things like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, obesity, cancers, metabolic syndrome, autoimmune disease. I mean, these cases were rare in the past, but now they are everywhere, and these are just in the adults, okay? In children, okay, that's our future, our children. There are an explosion of ADHD, of allergies, asthma, autism, eczema, and those are just in children, okay? So when we talk about an explosion, what are the numbers? So what are we talking about here? How bad is the situation? So in adults, diabetes alone, in the last 60 years, 1950, there's about 1 in 100 people with diabetes. So maybe like in this auditorium, maybe 1 or 2% would have diabetes, all right? So today, it's at least 1 in 8 in Australia. So that's a jump of about 1,200%. So it's a massive jump. Obesity in adults, 60 years ago, is about 1 in 10, but now it's about 1 in 3, so there's a jump of over 300%. And the cancer risk, when I was in medical school about 16 years ago, in 2000, the cancer risk was about 1 in 3 people. 1 in 3 people will get affected by cancers. So that's still quite high, but today, the numbers have jumped a bit more to 1 in 2. So basically, every other person in this room here will get affected by cancers. So that's a real statistic. So there's real numbers. So that's a jump of 150%. And children, our future. See, this is where the bigger problem lies. Because, I mean, we're all going to die someday, but, you know, our children hopefully will continue our work. And as a sustainability aim, that's where we have to be sustainable in our kids. So the problem that they are facing, for example, ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, 60 years ago, it was almost unheard of, all right? And in the late 70s, it's becoming 1 in 20, and now it's about 1 in 10. So that's a massive jump, about 200% in the last 36 years. Obesity, it used to be 1 in 14, now 1 in 5 children are obese. So that's, again, it's a major problem. And one of the biggest jump is autism, or autistic spectrum disorder. So in 2003, so not that long ago, there's only about 30,000 Australian kids with autism. Now, it's more than 115,000 kids affected. So if you look actually the numbers double for between 2003 and 2009 is double, but in the last 3 years, it's double again. So it's actually going up at an exponential rate. And that's why you don't see that. But so it's gone up by almost 4,000% in the last 9 years. And it is estimated, looking at that graph, in about 2050, at least in America, there'll be 1 in 2 kids who's autistic. So imagine that. They are attention deficit, they're hyperactive, and they're autistic. So what kind of future are we looking at? You know, we'll be kids, we'll be adults who are disabled, who can't learn, and who can't sit down and keep still. And who's then going to continue our projects, our future? So this is the problems that we are facing. So the question is, what's happened? Where did we go wrong? So one of the key problems are misguided guidance. This chap here is called Ancel Keys, but he was a key person in changing this whole landscape. He was a professor of nutrition in the US, and he published a study which basically changed everything. But without us knowing at the time that he was actually funded by the grain industry. So he manipulated the data in his research to suit the grain industry. And because he was a professor of nutrition, he had influence over government policies. And he changed, or he helped shape the US government dietary policies to basically to eliminate fat and to eat high loads of carbohydrates and grains. So, and he said that this is the best way to cardiovascular health, for heart disease and things, which actually now we know that it's all false. So, there's a few other scientists, but they're all funded indirectly by the sugar industry and by the grain industry. And as you know, in Islam, we've been told that if there is a fasik or an evil person or liar comes to you with news, you have to verify the facts, whether is it factual or is it some. So in terms of science, you have to see who funds them. That's where you get the source, who funds them. They are just puppets of certain bodies and companies. Other things that we went wrong is chemicals. Now, we have like huge amount of chemicals that is introduced into the environment, into our lives in the last 100 years. There's at least around 100,000 synthetic man-made chemicals that's not been on Earth 100 years ago. Now it's everywhere. And the problem is our bodies and environment haven't been used to these synthetic chemicals. There's no ways of detoxifying them or eliminating them from our bodies. So where are the chemicals found? They are in agriculture, they're in industrial waste, in drugs, in consumer products like cleaning products or beauty products, and we eat them, we put it on our skin, we breathe them in, and also it goes to our babies in the placenta during pregnancy. And these chemicals then targets key organs like your brain, your liver, your the fat tissues, and as a result, you get sick, you get obese, you get diabetes, you get high blood pressure, you get cancers. So they do have an effect on our bodies. And for example, this was published 4 years ago in the Journal of Diabetes, looking at the correlation of chemicals that's been produced in the last 70 years and how it matches also the rate of diabetes as well. One of the other chemicals that really is important is endocrine disrupting chemicals. What that means is that these are chemicals that disrupt your hormones. A lot of these chemicals actually mimic the female hormone estrogen. So a lot of them are estrogenic hormones. So they are found in like pesticides, in drugs, in body care products. And how that affects the body is that in men, they make you feminized. So I don't know where you look around, there's a lot more feminized men than 50 years ago. You know, and in women, it makes them have more breast cancers, and in both sexes, it makes them infertile. So as you know, some women take estrogen pills as a contraceptive, but we are actually all taking the contraceptive pill in our food. Another big problem is sugar. Sugar is been called the white death because, I mean, in the past it's been told as a health food and that it doesn't make you fat, but now we know the truth that they do make you sick, they do make you diabetes, and they feed cancer cells. And one of the professors of pediatrics in the US, Professor Robert Lustig, He's been trying to change in the last few years, trying to change the mainstream thinking that actually sugar is the thing that makes you sick, and it's not fat, really. Other main big problem is mass industrial agriculture. As you can look at the picture, this is what mass industrial agriculture is about, and the problem is it uses a lot of heavy chemicals, and you can see the soil is totally exhausted, dry, has zero minerals, poor nutrient content, and as a result, they produce food that has almost no nutritional value, low in vitamins, low in minerals, but high in calories. And the other problem is, again, as you probably can guess, is low physical activity. A lot of us don't do exercise anymore. The kids don't exercise. Used to run around passing football and stuff. Now just pass the remote. So, solutions. So come to solutions. I know the problems are massive, but the solutions are not too complicated, but they do need willpower and they do need discipline. So there are some solutions out in our sunnah. For example, our food. We should focus on the food. Our food should be halalan wa tayyiban. But often we forget the tayyiban part. We just focus on halalan and indulge, So that's where we fail a lot of times. So what does tayyiban mean? Tayyiban means it should be chemical-free, it should be organic, nutrient-dense, meaning it should be high in vitamins and minerals. Ideally, it should be locally sourced or homegrown, so it means it's fresh, hasn't traveled millions of miles away, and it should be ethically sourced, which means there's blessing in it, and minimal to no processing. For example, we ourselves buy a box of local vegetables like this, organic, fresh, local, and in season, and that costs us about $30, $33 a week. So that's not too expensive for most of us, I think. And another example about nutrition is that, for example, if you're sick, diabetic, you have metabolic syndrome, or you have an obesity issue, you should be eating low-carb, high healthy fat diet, not grains, not bread, not rice or sugar. Healthy fats here mean butter or olive oil, not margarine and not vegetable oil. And in children, they should have low sugar, no juices, and ideally real foods, not processed foods. And the thing about sunnah, fasting. Fasting Mondays and Thursdays. Now, the trendy thing is called intermittent fasting. But this has been in the sunnah for, thousands of years. And it's also called now the 5-2 diet, which is basically fasting 2 days a week. And the magic thing about fasting is that it balances your hormones and it helps you burn excess fat through your hormones. And avoiding toxins and chemicals, which means you have to avoid them in our foods and on our bodies, in our house care, beauty care, body wash and shampoos and all this stuff. Avoiding pesticides because they're cancer-causing. Avoiding plastics. And BPA or BPA-free bottles, they're all the same because they're all plastics and they are estrogens. And example, fluorides in toothpaste and water because they lower your IQ. It's a neurotoxin. They make you a bit dumb, fortunately. And increasing physical activity. Simple things like brisk walking or high interval intensity training, which basically means about doing some intense physical exercise, just 6 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week, or even once a week has been shown to make a massive difference. So I'm sure a lot of you can afford just 6 minutes of exercise once a week. If you can do that, that's already make a big difference. In summary, we have to be mindful of what we put inside our bodies and in our children. Like I said, mentioned about the car, we would never think of putting bad fuel into the car, but we don't think twice about putting bad foods in our bodies. The thing is, we can buy a car, but you cannot replace by a new body. And remember that a sick ummah is a weak ummah, especially our future generations. That's where the problem is going to present itself. And in the hadith, a strong believer is better and more lovable to Allah than a weak believer. And strong here can also mean physical strength as well. I know it's a big topic. I try to condense it as much as I can, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask or email me. Hope that's of benefit to everyone. Thank you.